Okay. Now the third scenario is where Trump loses. Well, and it remains everything the same. And this is a scenario Trump loses by a low percentage of votes or is impeached by the minimum amount of needed. In this type of lose, well, the Republican Party is not pushed to cut alliance or connection with um, Trump prototypes of politicians, and they're not also pushed to change any attitude. So this is the most likely scenario. Well, it's not a good scenario. It's the division remains and the democratic instability remains. However, Trump is not the biggest problem of democracy in the United States. These problems have been before, during Trump, and after Trump. In here you can see the next slide. Extreme partisan division, mainly about race and religious difference in U.S. polarization preceded Trump. What does it mean? That Trump, well, is a harmful and dangerous politician for the democracy, but democracy crisis began before he was there. This crisis was, well, years ago with the partisan division, the extreme partisan division. And here I have a quote when it says that when partisan rivals become enemies, political competition descends into welfare, and institutions don't turn into weapons, the result is a system hovering constantly on the brink of a crisis. A brink of crisis. Well, this explains basically the crisis of the nowadays crisis of the democracy in the U.S. and how the the norms are being abandoned and now well they're treating each other in the politics. Now they're not, you don't treat with respect your opponent. You see your opponent not as a rival. You see it as an enemy, as a war, not as a political competition. And this, of course, has its negative, well, actions for democracy. And now that I'm talking about the U.S., I'm gonna say how U.S. democracy works. First, American democracy has worked relying upon two norms. I have spoke a little about them. The first is mutual tolerance, and the second is institutional forbearance. Without these two, well, constitution couldn't work, wouldn't work. They're the basics of each relation and the norms written. Of course, these norms aren't written and are beyond the bounds of law. The problem is that since 15 years ago, the Republicans have changed their way to act in the U.S. politics. Now they are more an act of chaos, and they just causing problems in the system, not don't letting governate and don't pass policies in the Congress. So many people have uh, told to the Democrats to well use the same strategy, by the same way, go beyond the Constitution and by the Republicans being in the same conditions. This is called a Tier 5. However, the the authors explain that this is not the way. This is exactly the the worst way outcome that Democrats can come with because well they put two examples, Colombia and Venezuela, when they both have an authoritarian leader as Álvaro Uribe in Colombia and Hugo Chavez in Venezuela, and how the opposition actions will change the way it ends the country. One ends in an authoritarianism, and the other, well, still remains as a democracy. In Venezuela, Hugo Chavez, well, starts manipulating and going beyond the constitution, and the opposition wants to get rid of him by any ways. That's why they make a coup d'état, um, try to get him out of the seat. Well, they lose that attack, and now Hugo Chavez has the word that they are against the constitution, they're enemies of the country, and that makes the institutions to get stronger around his leader and strength around him. That's why it was so easy for him to, well, get rid of the opposition and, well, construct a authoritarian country. In Colombia, Alvaro Uribe attacked the opponents by telling that they were alliance with guerrillas, with terrorism, with um, drug capos. However, opposition don't get in the same fight, and they prefer to use the democratic ways, start winning the Congress and the high courts, and this takes a lot of the power of Álvaro Uribe, and now he couldn't attack the opposition the same way that he wanted. Here it's a really interesting quote that it makes an example of this situation, but in the United States. It says, if Trump administration were sabotaged by obstructionism or impeached without a strong bipartisan bipartisan consensus, the effect will be to reinforce and perhaps hasten the dynamics of partisans, antipathy, and norms erosion that helped bring Trump to power to begin with. So this is exactly what happened in the case that, well, Democrats will happen when Democrats enter this dirty fight. Solutions or possible solutions, as the author says, are are designed for each party in a different way. The Democrats, well, this first solution for both of them is to work to restore norms and mutual tolerance for forbearance. Well, these are the basic norms, classic. The founding fathers know them and understand them. So this is a way to restore democracy, and, well, Democrats have easier to start working on them, and Republicans, well, can follow the lead. Second, the opposition should concentrate on Congress, the courts, and the elections. If Trump is defeated by democratic institutions, it will strengthen. The best way to defeat Trump is by using the law. If they defeat them by force or by means out of the Constitution, well, it just helps Trump discourse, the Trump speech, and gets him stronger. And third, it is very important is the coalitions, coalitions with different views, because a coalition is strong with, yeah, with people as things the same as you, but it's not enough. When you make coalitions with people that think different than you, then you take those things that are the difference, you take it out for the biggest purpose as taking out Trump of the power. Well, this make a very strong basis and a coalition for gaining the power. And in the next government, well, will be a government that has alliance with different point of view and make it more easy to make conversations with respect for the other, and, well, promote the basic norms in the democratic institutions. For the Republican, there's a little bit harder. They have to reform or reborn their party. Their party has lost the way, has lost the the form to support and apport to democracy. They're just a negative actor right now, so they need to reform the whole uh, the whole institution, since who is in charge, how is his funding, and all of that, his objectives, of course, it has to be changed. And in this process of change, they have to tolerate and respect Democrats and the institutions. No more insults to the oppositions. No more saying that elections are not legit. A president is not legit. Not attacking the Congress. As Republicans, as politicians, they have the duty to respect these institutions, to respect the others. And if they're not, well, the democratic crisis will increase. A conclusion, well, for me, this chapter of the book describes mainly what is the background of the actual democratic crisis in the United States and what are the possible solutions. Uh, and the main conclusion of the text is that the restore of democratic norms and extend them is the overall solution. This is the main solution. Of course, there are other matices. There are other lines, small things that have to be in the details. But the overall solution is to restore democratic norms and extend them. And for last, the author structured a clear background for future analysis of the threats of democracy. Moreover, they, limited by the time where the book was published, predicted with the theory some of U.S. events, of U.S. actual events. Of course, as I said, they can predict the attack of the Capitolium. It's a really threat of the democracy, and this book, simple, not specialized for political scientists, well, it it makes it work. So it's a really important and interesting book for it. And last, the debate questions. First, will restoring norm of actual tolerance and forbearance will be enough to heal a divided society of hatred, full of hatred for thoughts and religion and race? Religion and race are not easy themes that you can like make coalitions and let them apart. A religion determines the life of many people and how to follow them. The norms that they follow are likely established by religion. That's why it's really hard for them to go to coalitions in this when this is in the desk. However, you can have respect for the other, but is it possible for US to restore the norms in a society that has been so attacked, so full of hatred for immigrants, for different kind of religions, for uh, the country that has literally the signs of God in their money. So it's a really, really hard way. Is that enough? This enough? And the second is, will U.S. democracy still exist if Trump had won elections? Trump is a big threat. If he had won the elections, well, democracy will still exist. Well, democratic institutions in the US could have support the attack of someone that is not with democracy. Even the Democrats will support or would stay quiet with Trump in the power again. Uh, will it may be going to a 35 or something worse? These are my debate questions, and this was my presentation. Thanks for all.